Giraffe Talk. We're going to go over foreign affairs. We're going to talk about ICE in Minnesota. We're going to go over the FC files, including Pam Bondi testifying in front of Congress and Ghislaine Maxwell testifying in front of Congress. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about DOGE and Elon Musk.
What topics are in the news?
Breaking news: suspect is still on the run.
Victim remains.
We will explain how it affects you and your expert sources in
The story is still developing. Reports still remain unconfirmed.
They're calling it Keno.
Trump pushes to nationalize voting. Rand Paul said that's unfortunate because that's all against the Constitution. In response to this, Trump said that he's at least going to use the census to cut congressional seats. The United States has claimed to have returned $500 million to the people of Venezuela in oil profits. I don't know, I'll see it when I believe it. And once again, this wasn't about stopping a drug lord, this was about oil. And federal agents have finally ID'd the leader of Antifa. And it's this asshole. SICE continues to face criticism. They're getting kicked out of restaurants. They're getting kicked out of hotels. But Vino himself got kicked out of a bar. Texas Governor Abbott said that they're going to start arresting kids protesting ICE. They're going to arrest the teachers who didn't force them to be in the class. And they're doubling down. They're arresting people while wearing plain clothes and offering no identification. The Kristi Noem said that Homeland Security agents are going to start wearing body cams. But now we're seeing them arresting people in plain clothes. So I'm assuming until proven otherwise that that's a fucking lie. This has caught the attention of Internet Locale Cyrax, who has declared war on ICE. Now is this why Homeland said he's leaving Minnesota? But also the DHS said they're going to be spying on your social media. You are no longer allowed to criticize ICE. The DHS also arrested a 67-year-old citizen for criticizing ICE. So you guys already know I'm going to have to make a video criticizing ICE. Trump's getting about $45 billion to ICE to construct these massive detention centers to house illegal immigrants. Now if we're deporting them, why are we housing them? Might have something to do with us arresting people at work sites. Probably slave labor. But what really bothers me, they're coming equipped with bio-waste incinerators. So, sounds like if we can't deport them, we're gonna kill them. Which scares the shit out of me. Grand jury has refused to indict Mark Kelly, stating that all he said is you gotta follow legal orders, and that's not illegal to do. Alexei Navalny, a Russian politician campaigning to go against Putin, has been found dead. Turns out he got a bad case of ingesting dark frog poison. Of course, I'm being a little goofy. I know what it is. Russia killed another political opponent. They want it to be obvious so you know the power and the lengths that Russia would go to kill their opponents. Greenland have reached an agreement. They're getting a deal that's the exact same as the one we had in the 1950s. But Russia has stated if we move weapons to Greenland, they're going to retaliate and it's going to get ugly. And Lindsey Graham has stated the European Union needs to get the fuck over the United States threatening to invade Greenland. That's just what we do now. We threaten to attack our allies, defend our enemies. Discord said they're going to do their part in fighting pedophilia by requiring an age verification. Now it turns out this is under the command of Peter Thiel, who's building a huge database. So it's probably not about protecting children. When people say they're here to protect the kids, they're not being sincere. It's about surveillance, it's about power, it's about control. So basically, get off of Discord. Microsoft was already killing itself with AI, but Bill Gates has also been implicated with Epstein. And that kind of surprises no one, right? And it turns out Epstein was banned from Xbox Live for threatening other gamers. And he also may be behind microtransactions in the video game industry. Seems like every fucking bad thing that happens, from massive issues to the minute first world problems, is connected to Epstein. And just the sheer scope of his power is unsettling. And Epstein may have ran one of the biggest blackmail operations for the Kremlin. Now something people aren't touching on, there's a lot of Israel connections. And that's probably because they don't want to be blackmailed by Israel. Now, Maxwell has been called to testify regarding the Epstein sex criminal conspiracy, and she invoked her Fifth Amendment each step of the way. And watching this video made me think like, man, Maxwell even sounds like a bitch. I don't like to use that word lightly, but this is a human trafficker. I don't see how somebody can spend more than 25 seconds talking to her without thinking, yeah, she's doing some illegal shit. Yes, this bitch is the devil. Thomas Macy and Jamie Raskins have actually read some of the unredacted Epstein files. There's still redactions underneath the redactions, But they stated that just by reading that shit, they were fucking pissed. Now, Trump attacks reported Caitlin Collins, asking if the victims will ever see any justice, and said that she never smiles, and he doesn't like her, and how the fuck are you gonna smile when you're covering the Epstein files? The Clintons have agreed to testify about Epstein and his operation. Part of me thinks this is just a bluff. When Pam Bondi testified in front of Congress, we got to witness one of the most incredible crash outs of all time. She wasn't prepared to answer any of the questions. Turns out she has not talked to any of the victims of Epstein, and all she really brought with her was a bunch of note cards with insults. Now, Pam Bondi has not met the deadlines for the Epstein files release. Until Al called her out for lying on her oath, she has blackmailed governors, and this is a woman who's been an entire career on defending pedophiles. And there's good evidence that during this whole event, the Department of Justice was spying on Congress, seeing who's getting too nosy with the Epstein files. And this has resulted in Thomas Macy saying that he's not suicidal, he's happy with his family, he's had a good health checkup, he's a strong swimmer, and there's no bodies of water around his house. Lauren Boebert has stated that Maxwell needs a harsher punishment. There's more criminals to persecute, and she's fucking pissed too. Now looking back, with Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she's done with politics, it kind of makes sense. Obviously, the whole entire institution is corrupt. And finally, Caroline Leavitt said the Trump administration would no longer take questions about the Epstein files. They're not talking about them. They're not going to release anything else. Only for Pam Bondi to release a whole nother batch of Epstein files. But it turns out it's mostly bullshit. It's either stuff already released or just a bunch of nonsense. So will the victims ever see the perpetrators face the long arm of the law? See justice for their crimes? No, it's not fucking happening. Although we found out that Kimball Musk was mentioned 100 times in the Epstein files, it seems like Elon Musk has not gone to the island. And that's mostly because he's too fucking cringe. Now I believe in the authenticity of these emails because Elon Musk sounds exactly what I thought Elon Musk would sound like. So Elon Musk is to be deposed in court over DOGE dismantling U.S. aid. But Musk has doubled down. He said he's going to donate even more money for the midterms, keep the Republicans in the office. Does this relate to him in 2024, talking about how if the Republicans aren't in office, he's definitely going to prison? So when it comes to DOGE, I just gotta know, what did they accomplish? We're still seeing fraud in Minnesota, seeing fraud in Florida. It looks like the swamp has not been drained, and federal debt has only increased. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So DOGE, what is it? What have they done? What have they accomplished? And did Elon Musk really fuck Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller? You're watching Giraffe TV.
Drop the nuggets, DOGE.
Y'all still waiting on your DOGE tax refund check? Not me. I been gave up on that shit. Now if you ask Elon Musk, DOGE would save us either from a couple billion to a couple $1 trillion in taxpayers' money. And in fact, save the entire nation from overspending and collapsing. But at the same time, the government budget has skyrocketed. So, what the fuck's going on? There's some people that say that the whole plan behind DOGE was to enact a covert coup and replace long-term federal employees with those loyal to Trump. Other people have suggested that DOGE's entire purpose was to harvest the data of US citizens to construct a master database to help track the populace. And some say that this data was given to Palantir and they gave the data to ICE. But I don't know what the fuck's going on. Beats the hell out of me. I don't know what DOGE actually accomplished. I don't know what they fucking did. I don't even know what the purpose of DOGE was. So let's go look into it, see if we can find some answers. DOGE is the Department of Government Efficiency. So the purpose is to trim the fat in bureaucracy, cut spending, downsize the government. But there's allegations that they're trying to conform the government to the president's desire, fit in with MAGA ideology. Sounds a lot like Project 2025's goals. They want to modernize the information technology, maximize the productivity of the United States government. They want to cut any excess regulation, cut any excess spending. Now the stated goals is 1, to control the U.S. government's digital services. They've largely accomplished this. 2, they gotta get a federal employee management data. This is a system that gives $6 trillion in payments to Americans. 3, they'd also have to get the chief information officers replaced. OMB would get Gregory Barbacia, an employee from Palantir, to take the position. OPM would get Greg Hogan from SpaceX to take over. DOGE would have Ryan Reeder from SpaceX and Ross Grabber from Twitter, and the SSA would have the DOGE employee Michael Russo. So to do this, they needed to gain administrative access to information systems. They needed the authority to terminate any government contract, and they needed to commit mass layoffs and huge staff reductions. They would also copy the government databases and work with immigration enforcement. Now the status of DOGE is unclear. They claim that they aren't even a government agency. Others people claim that the whole concept of DOGE is unconstitutional. The White House claims that it is lawful. It says the same concept as Roosevelt's Keeps Commission or Reagan's Grace Commission. And this isn't an uncommon thing. It's been done before in the United States history many times. And Musk's role in the organization is unclear. If you ask the government, he was officially Donald Trump's senior advisor, and that Amy Gleason is actually running the show. But then Trump himself said that Elon Musk was running the show. In promoting DOGE, Musk said it would be the most transparent government agency of all time. You can follow the progress on doge.gov. You can follow them on X. You can follow them on waste.gov. But it was made private because they used the word diverse, and that's a violation against the Trump administration. Still, Musk said they were going to have to keep the headcount a mystery. We can't know about the wages and waste of DOGE itself. We won't see any contact information. They won't be posting the activity, and we won't even get a fucking organizational chart. Now Musk, the largest individual political donor of 2024, suggested this idea to Donald Trump. He said that deregulating government is the only way that SpaceX will finally reach Mars, and would claim that DOGE is the perfect name for this organization. And the goal was to cut $2 trillion of wasteful federal spending. Immediately after assuming office, Trump announced this organization would be formed, and Elon Musk would be mentored in the ways of bureaucracy by Stephen Miller. Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk decided to go join forces and cut the number of government agencies from 400 to 99. They said it'd be way more than enough to handle all the business. If you ask me, it sounds like they're going to overburden these government agencies. But whatever. And the plan was for DOGE to delete itself by July 4th, and he would announce this at a Great American Fair. They were supposed to celebrate the 250th birthday of America. Pretty cool so far. Cutting all that wasteful spending sounds like something that most Americans can get down with. Then Ramaswamy would step away from DOGE after saying that America celebrates mediocrity and that he's going to get a bunch of H-1B immigrants to take over his skilled labor roles. Elon Musk also supported this idea, but for some reason, he didn't get as much flack. Now, before we can discuss the actions of DOGE, we gotta look at the structure of DOGE. I'll show you some of the key words and the key figures. Kind of establish a glossary for this organization. So it's established by a litany of executive orders that Donald Trump passed on his first day, and it mandated cooperation with other government agencies. The U.S. Digital Service became the U.S. DOGE Service, and they would gain full access to unclassified data, IT systems, and records to the maximum extent that the law allows. Now, the U.S. DOGE Service was supposed to be a temporary organization. There was also DOGE teams that will work directly with other agencies. Then there was the USDS Administration, led by Amy Gleason, and she would report directly to the White House Chief of Staff. Now, Musk would state that this was going to be the most transparent organization in the U.S. government, but all the identities of the employees would have to be withheld. So this makes it kind of hard to figure out what the fuck's going on in DOGE, so I had to do a little digging, try to find any information that was publicly accessible. It mostly consists of about 100 young coders with almost no government experience. A lot of them were recruited from Silicon Valley, and about 40 had ties to Musk or Peter Thiel. Now, Musk said they were working 120 hours a week, Monday through Sunday. Some of the employees were unpaid, which sounds a lot like the working conditions of the emerald mines the Musk family had. I guess they ain't beating the slavery allegations anytime soon, which is crazy because the budget was already $40 million by February. It just lets you know how overpaid some employees are. They work overnight, sleep at the office, and you know, I've worked 110 hours a week before, and I'll be honest, it fucking sucks. Now, when we talk about the payment, the money was transferred over from other agencies. Now, this is legal, only if DOGE is a government agency, which they claim it's not. Whatever. We do know that 20 of the employees got the highest government pay grade. Now, this would ultimately cost us $4.1 million by the supposed expiration date of July the 4th. Now, the General Service Administration would give them about $120,000 to $195,000. The Department of Labor gave at least $1.3 million to just 4 employees. Information Technology and Oversight Reform would give about $6.7 million, which is twice the overall annual salary of the White House employees. And this was only in the first week. Second week, they bumped it up to $14.4 million. Now, you also got to take into account that the USDS wanted to increase their staff from 89 to 150 in the next year. And they would give them a budget from 20 million to about 45 million. And we do know that the tech workers were being hired at a maximum rate of $195,000 in their annual salary. After all this has been disclosed within the first few weeks, Russell Vought removed all information about the payment to DOGE. So who knows how much these fuckers are really costing us. Now sure, they may be working their asses off, but we gotta look at the cost-benefit analysis, right? Now Elon Musk and DOGE have said that they at least saved us about $100 billion. Now we can tell that just by paying their employees, they have cost us $21.7 billion. However, an independent study said it's more like $135 billion, and the IRS said that they have cost us $500 billion in lost revenue. And it might be higher than that. They think that billions have been miscounted. It looks like their claims of cutting costs due to frugality don't really hold up under scrutiny, and instead it was more about political ideology and philosophy. You're watching Giraffe Talk.
Connections between DOGE and the Heritage Foundation.
Now, is there any real connection to Project 2025? Let's check it out. Now, Russell Vought was an advisor to the Heritage Foundation, and he would lead the Office of Management and Budget, and teach Musk the tactics of impound funds and tell to allocate power to the executive branch. It seems like the unitary executive theory, which was heavily pushed by the Heritage Foundation. The goal was to get all the power in the executive branch allocated to the president, kind of like a dictator. Maybe that's why Stephen Miller says that Trump has plenary authority, which is pretty much a synonym for dictatorial power. Vought had funded the Center for Renewing America, who would draft the executive orders, regulations, and memos that President Trump would use. And he said his main goal was to put civil servants in trauma. He was considered the glue between Musk and the Republican Party. I was one of the people, along with Stephen Miller, that taught Musk the whole concepts of bureaucracy and how the government works. J.D. Vance himself would say that DOGE is less about saving taxpayer dollars and more about making bureaucracy responsive to the president. Vance previously worked with Kevin Roberts, one of the architects behind the Heritage Foundation, and 9 out of 15 of the agencies first targeted by DOGE were Heritage Foundation targets. And overall, it seemed like DOGE's main playbook wasn't about saving money, it was about ideology, it was about philosophy. You're watching Giraffe TV.
Early actions of DOGE.
Now that we get all that bullshit out of the way, let's look at the actions of DOGE itself. Now doing a timeline would be almost untenable, so I'm going to go by category. I'm going to go by each section of actions that DOGE has taken. The first day, Trump would enact a hiring freeze for federal employees. The next day, they would end all DEI programs. On the orders of Charles Ezell, memos went out to OPM staff, returned to office. And this was written by Noah Peters, a DOGE member, and Thomas Schenck. Both of them were tied to Project 2025. And after this, they fired 200,000 probational employees. OPM would announce a deferred resignation program. If you resign by February the 6th, you get your salary, you get your benefits until September the 30th. Now this will waive the legal right to action as 75,000 took the fucking off. Eventually most of them would be asked to return anyways. And this would cause a massive cost with no productivity gain. On February 22nd, Musk would require a weekly report from employees. It's supposed to be 5 bullet points to summarize what you have done this week. And non-compliance will result in resignation. And all this shit would cost the federal government about $14.8 billion. Some agencies told their employees to ignore this mandate, such as the Department of Defense, the FBI, many state departments, NASA, and the HHS. Of course, DOGE will work closely with the Office of Management and Budget, and in a couple of days into Trump's presidency, he would dismiss 17 Inspector General. Many of these people were investigating Musk's companies. Now, Musk has stated if Trump does not get into the presidential office, that he would essentially be fucked and be locked away in prison. Probably forever. So, seems like a conflict of interest? Seems kind of suspicious. Was this all just for Musk to cover his own ass and make a bunch of money and replace a bunch of federal employees with those loyal to President Trump? This is Giraffe Productions.
DOGE in action.
Of course we know they took control of the OPM, the USDS, and the GSA with DOGE members. So on President Donald Trump's first day, he would appoint Amanda Scow as the Chief Staff Appointee at the Office of Personnel Management. They would then revoke access to records to senior staff. Now what's all in these records? About $1 trillion worth of assets, retirement funds, and health and life insurance, records for employee application. Now Amanda Scow's position was the only one that could reasonably counteract Elon Musk's plan for the mass layoffs. Steve Davis will become Elon Musk's lieutenant at the General Service Administration. Now, this is an organization that holds the federal government's real estate information and procurement systems. It has sensitive data about government contracts. It also has a smart pay system, the largest government pay system in the fucking world. They also had a federal procurement data system, which details every contract over $3,000. And DOGE will get the ability to modify these records on February the 14th, which is the same day they promised a receipt and savings update, which we didn't fucking get. So are they using this to falsify information? I guess we don't know. Soon, Tesla employee Thomas Shedd will become the new director of the GSA, and he demanded administrative access to 20 different GSA systems. Now what's happening in the Department of Treasury? Fiscal Assistant Secretary of Treasury David Libre denied DOGE access to the USDT systems. The new Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent would overrule the decision, and then Libre would resign and will be replaced with DOGE's Tom Cruise. DOGE would then gain access to the IRS data. And you know that includes our names, addresses, prior work information, social security, net worth, bank information. Now the Social Security Administration's Michelle King was replaced by Leland Dudek as the acting commissioner, who previously was put on leave for collaborating with DOGE. Tiffany Flick will retire after calling out DOGE on her false claims. Now DOGE would claim that people who are 150 years old or older were getting Social Security benefits. Turns out that's just because they couldn't understand how the Social Security system worked. If you died before the Social Security Administration digitized its records, it considered you to still be alive. There's another system in place. They would veto the checks going out. And Social Security checks would kind of be canceled after you reach 115 anyways. There's also a claim that 2.7 trillion in Medicaid and Medicare programs were going overseas. Now this was true. This happened back in 2003. It seems like it's mostly like accounting errors, and it was being rectified at the time that DOGE was established. It's not that this problem didn't exist, but DOGE was taking credit with somebody else solving a problem. DOGE would gain access to the Social Security Administration's information. It would include your lifetime benefits, your Social Security number, your bank information, any other benefits you have, your disability status, your citizenship status, your medical information. This is all around the time that Trump requested Palantir to construct a master database on each US citizen. So, it seems like the conspiracy theorists were kinda right. Now let's look at their actions against DEI. Of course, we all know in December 2024, Musk would tweet, DEI must die. He'd bitch all fucking night about it. And he would accomplish killing off DEI in 3 phases. Phase 1, Trump would rescind all executive orders and all initiatives regarding DEI. This is when he said he was going to take out the Obama and the Biden orders. He would dissolve the federal offices with DEI roles and fire their employees. He would remove all DEI information from federal websites and terminate anything he deemed to be a DEI contract. Phase 2, after firing all the DEI employees, he would fire all the employees that he said were corrupted by woke ideologies, by DEI ideology. Anybody even associated with DEI initiatives. Phase 3 was just a mass firing of any employees that might be in a DEI related position. Now DOGE and Trump would never tell us what this criteria even was. They just start firing the shit out of people. Now to show off their progress, they really brag about taking down the Chief Diversity Officers Executive Council website. Called it a massive win for the American people. They also promote conspiracies about the government giving money to illegal immigrants and non-existent employees. Now the proof they would present was not there. There was no fucking proof. It was just, hey, trust me, bro. Now the idea behind illegal immigrants getting Social Security fraud, I don't think is real, but it's worth investigating. But the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy would state that illegal immigrants aren't getting any government benefits, and it actually contribute overall about $25 billion to our federal budget. February the 1st, DOGE had USA Security put on leave so they could access data information. On February 24th, Gavin Kliger and Luke Forrester would manually block life-saving payments. On February 6th, the Consumer and Financial Protection Bureau was personally visited by DOGE staff member Russell Vogt, become the head of that organization. The next day, he halted all of the work, tried to fire about 86% of the staff, but the courts blocked his action. However, Galvin Kilger would come through and get those employees fucking fired anyways. DOGE would enter the Department of Education and they'd install white noise machines to cover the conversations. They would eventually fire half the staff and cut about $900 million in government contracts. DOGE and a number of police officers would break into the U.S. Institute of Peace and would destroy any records they could fucking find. And eventually this would result in a lawsuit being filed against DOGE. DOGE would also publish a list of 443 government properties to be sold. This would include some buildings using clandestine CIA program and operations, thusly compromising the secrecy behind them. They try to interconnect the IRS database and would use Palantir's boundary to analyze the data. DOGE would install a Starlink terminal in the White House and they would outsource the SmartPay credit card system to Ramp. One of Ramp's founders was Peter Thiel. Now he didn't complete his plans, but must want to privatize numerous government agencies such as the USPS and the Amtrak. Dudek wanted to privatize the Social Security Administration. DOGE also had plans to revise or eliminate about 47 different government regulations and had their AI analyze about 200,000 other federal regulations. And the goal was to eventually eliminate at least half of them. And because of this, a bunch of pesticides and forever chemicals would be reutilized by corporations and dumped in unsafe manners. And this sounds a lot like Peter Thiel's goals for the US government. They would then use the OMB to dismantle USAID. They targeted Treasury, the Social Security Administration, and Health and Human Services. Now the Government Accountability Office was supposed to audit DOGE, and they would accuse them of a massive data theft heist. But of course, nothing fucking happened. So DOGE claimed that they're trying to transfer the Social Security information to modern systems. Possibly true. But then they would input 600 immigrants as being dead, but with Social Security numbers to try to use as a propaganda device, which was fucking weird, and I can't find any information of where this led to. And the courts did try to prevent DOGE from accessing the SSA systems. And after that, Leland Dudek threatened to shut down the entire SSA organization. In response, DOGE member Luke Forger would take over the US government grant system. DOGE members tried to gain access to the Department of Interior's information, but security pretty much blocked them. So the security got put on leave, and then they accessed the information anyways. And after DOGE was barred from the courts from accessing the Social Security information, it was then found on a private server anyways. So I guess they hacked into that shit. In April of 2025, DOGE's goals also changed. The main goal was to collect the data and put it in a private database. Whoa, sounds sketchy. This was against the Privacy Act of 1974, and lawsuits were eventually filed, but the Supreme Court granted DOGE access to do whatever the fuck they wanted. National Labor Relationship Board was accessed by a backdoor by DOGE member Jordan Wick, and the DHS would come out and just admit that DOGE was really just building a database and wasn't necessarily trying to transfer the information. This would include your social security number, your biometrics, your voting records, and IRS information. It also included information gained from DACA and the US's Immigration and Naturalization Service. Now, while Musk is doing this, do you think he gave the information to companies he worked with, or maybe Peter Thiel's Palantir? Probably. And while this was all happening, there's logging attempts from a DOGE account found in Russia. Rulers offered help to investigate this, and then he would send a threatening letter with pictures of him walking his dog, and he kind of just left it hanging in the air. We don't know what the hell happened in that situation to this day. Now when it comes to actions with AI, GSA was supposed to shrink by about 50% and OPM by 70%, and they were to be replaced by AI programs. Thomas Sher would also announce in February that the GSA would use AI to investigate the Department of Education to see if there's any DEI hires or initiatives. And on March the 7th, they would reveal a DOGE chatbot, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development would have its rules rewritten by an AI system, and EPA employees would be monitored by AI, and they would search for any pro-woke terms, any pro-DEI terms, anything anti-Musk, anything anti-Trump. And Sahil Lavina would utilize AI systems to hallucinate a bunch of information about the Department of Veteran Affairs to go and downsize it. So it wasn't even based off of anything fucking real. So they'd eventually downsized by firing 300,000 federal employees. 200,000 had already left, overall cutting 12% of the federal employee workforce. 76,000 would also be bought out, and 149,000 were also a part of planned reduction. You're watching a Giraffe production.
The end of DOGE.
Now after all of this, there'll be about 200 lawsuits levied against Trump, and most of them will be about DOGE's actions, usually dealing with privacy, security, and USAID. Now the main problem with these court cases is that judges cannot define what DOGE even fucking is. What kind of authority do they have? Who is in charge of DOGE? And Trump has tried to use an exemption for the internal documentation. The DOGE itself would say it's not even a government agency. But that was contradicted by a federal judge who deemed that DOGE was a government agency. John Yarrow would say that the ambiguity is part of the plan and presented Musk as merely being a senior advisor to the president was some kind of like legal insulation. It's fairly obvious that there is a fucking chain of command. Around in May, Elon Musk himself will leave DOGE after Tesla stocks have plummeted. He will leave with Steve Davis, James Burnham, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, and he would announce this in a public statement with a bruise around his eye. Now there is some speculation of what caused the bruise. Musk said his kid accidentally hit him with a toy. Some people speculate it was Stephen Miller after he decked Elon Musk for fucking his wife. Others say it's Steve Bassinet, who was pissed that Elon Musk failed in his task. And apparently Elon Musk put hands on Bassinet, who then decked him in the fucking face. The Bassinet is left-handed, so it does seem plausible. After this, Elon Musk would still be friends with Trump until he passed the big, beautiful bill and respond by accusing Trump of being a pedophile, stating that he was in the Epstein files. Later, he would recant his statement and delete his tweet. Is this because he made amends with Donald Trump? Or is this because Elon Musk remembered that he himself is in the Epstein files? Did he try to get to Epstein Island himself and couldn't go there because he was too fucking lame? Now finally, in November of 2025, DOGE would eventually be officially dissolved and the hiring freeze was officially over. The Russell vote would say that the plan was to get DOGE to be institutionalized, and members were sent to other institutions as consultants. They would institutionalize changes. Now did this negatively impact the economy? This is Giraffe TV.
The effects of DOGE.
Let's look into the after effects of DOGE. What all did they get accomplished? A lot of minorities got fired. That's pretty cool if you're a bigot, right? DEI culture is kind of dead. A lot of DOGE's actions dealing with the government budget is technically unconstitutional. You need to have the Congress to approve the budget. But looking back, we know that the Trump administration never gave a shit about checks and balances. So now it's kind of a moot point. So let's see what DOGE made in savings. How many contracts were terminated has never been disclosed. They started to post the receipts and then removed them. They said it was for national security, but who fucking knows? You do know that 43 audited contracts ended up getting restored, and by May 13th, 31 of them got removed from the savings tracker on their website. About a third of the 2,300 contracts that were canceled by February 23rd weren't even going to save the US taxpayers any money when you look at the cost damage analysis. Now from a cost benefit analysis, it probably didn't even break even. Especially when you look at the loss of productivity. Many employees returned, which means their buyouts end up costing us money and they didn't even accomplish any work, so we're paying them for nothing. There's also a lot of financial strain put on the US citizen when it comes to deregulated healthcare, financial aid, and energy services. Some healthcare premiums increased by 300%. And from the $32.7 billion claimed in savings, Politico could only verify about $1.4 billion. Investigations have claimed that there's been $21.7 billion of waste across the federal government. And the DOGE itself was an inefficient organization trying to go after government inefficiency. There's been a 10% decrease in the April deadline for tax receipts, in a $500 billion loss in revenue for the federal government. And by April, it already cost $135 billion in lost productivity for the taxpayers. This was for losses in productivity, paid leave, dismissing and rehiring employees. At least according to the Partnership for Public Services, 100 million affordable housing was canceled after it was flagged for DEI terminology. The Consumer Financial Protection Services realized that personal data services, security measures were completely ineffective. The Social Security Administration website crashed. Call waits were twice as long, and less than a quarter even got fucking answered. And then you take into account the cost of paying the DOGE employees. The DOGE employees were probably overpaid. DOGE would save about $660 million in lease cancellations and non-renewal. But then the property values were lowered by about $575 million. So it's almost just balanced out. And eventually Congress did greatly increase spending. The big beautiful bill was passed, which allowed a lot of money to the US military and to ICE. Now they got a budget for detaining more immigrants and building these massive detainment centers with huge biological waste incinerators. Now we got money for the wars in Venezuela, to maybe take over Greenland, to maybe invade Mexico, Canada, Panama, which honestly scares the fucking shit out of me. And of course, Tesla and SpaceX got some fat ass contract. Tesla stock did end up falling, and the owners of Teslas got their vehicles vandalized, and they can't even really fucking sell them. And to recuperate their losses, Tesla's trying to put the autopilot under a paywall, the lane checking under a paywall. So if anything, we ended up paying more, and we just cut out a bunch of services that helped Americans. But I guess we did find out that the government is kind of streamlined already, which surprised me. I assumed there had to be a bunch of excessive spending, excessive loss, jobs with no fucking point. And Musk himself realized it's probably not possible to save any money, but he hopes the DOGE did at least a little bit of good. Well, we can't tell because the economic reports have been canceled for months. DOGE also caused a lot of deaths, and not just with foreign aid. You think about the little girls that died in the Texas floods, the plane collisions, all these natural disasters in the Midwest, and the cuts to foreign aid have cost anywhere from 300,000 to 720,000 deaths, and will eventually reach 14 million deaths. Palantir probably got to build a master database and give it to ICE, who has federal immunity, and at least Russia probably got to steal all of our personal data, and we still don't got a fucking update to that. And maybe Project 2025 really got to do the political coup. The leadership roles replaced by members of DOGE, Tesla, Palantir, SpaceX, Twitter, and the Heritage Foundation. We also gotta see Elon Musk get punched in the fucking face. And we now know that Mark Zuckerberg would have definitely kicked his fucking ass. And at least Musk gotta go steal Stephen Miller's wife from him.
The world is a dark and uncertain place.
So this makes us ask a couple of questions. Well, we get our DOGE tax refund checks in the mail. Did DOGE save us any fucking money at all? Or was DOGE just a method for MAGA to do a political coup on the behest of the Heritage Foundation? And was DOGE really just trying to get everybody's personal data? No, we're not getting any fucking tax refund checks. And even if we did, it'd probably just crash the goddamn economy, just like the stimulus packet, the second stimulus packet, the third stimulus packet, and the PPP loans. No, DOGE didn't save us any money. They actually cost us some money. And then Congress ended up spending a shit ton of more money any damn way. And was it a political coup? Well, by the admission of the Trump administration and DOGE itself, yes, it was a political coup. Yeah, they got our personal data, they gave it to Palantir, and Palantir gave it to ICE. So my research is accurate, and all of this is true. What more can I say but fuck you, technocrat scumbag! Fuck you, technocrat scumbag!
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Fuck you, technocrat scumbag! 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 Fuck you, technocrat scumbag!
Yeah.